Good afternoon, everyone. I just got pinged with a tech issue. It looks like the stream was deleted on Facebook. Try to creating a new stream. Oh, and on Instagram, we are not vertical. We are horizontal. So,
Okay, good to know.
except our faces are really big. Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. For those of you who are watching, apparently our streaming service has changed the way they are streaming us on Instagram, and now we're side by side with our faces really close. I think we're going to want to figure out how to fix that. And yes, Facebook is not working, so we'll end up posting there separately.
Today has just been a day full of tech issues. Like, oh my goodness.
You know what? I mean, yeah, let's talk about that for a second. Nationwide or worldwide, I'm not sure. I think it was definitely
It's worldwide.
nationwide.
I think it's definitely worldwide.
It was worldwide. Yeah, there was a cloud issue and it locked out some of our programs. Did it lock out some of yours?
Yeah, some of ours too. Yeah, thankfully our main ones like QuickBooks were not affected, but our project management system, our meeting agenda system. So there were quite a few things that we had to kind of hobble our way through this morning. It just makes
Yes.
you realize how dependent we are on the internet.
Oh my God, it's definitely a little scary how much we depend on the internet. So yeah, and we're definitely not live on Facebook. So I just double checked.
Okay.
Nothing's working quite the way we think today, but we're still going to do it.
We'll push through, right?
We're going to push through. All right. So, hello, everyone. I'm Nancy Quinn, business coach and body language trainer to interior designers. And I am here with Carleen Lamay from C2 Accounting. She is my bookkeeper. She can be yours too. And her team is great. So, if you need bookkeeping services, please hop over to her website and set up a free consultation with her. But today, Carleen, we're going to talk about profit versus revenue. Are they really making money?
Yeah, well, we know most interior designers are super busy, right? They're busy with installs, orders, the year-end chaos, but busy doesn't always mean profitable, unfortunately.
No, and I do tell that, I have the Profit Insider Academy and I do coaching a lot of interior designers, and they look at other designers sometimes and they just think, oh my God, they're so busy. They must be doing great. And I always say what you say, be careful what you think.
Yes, what people see on the outside, as we all know, even from our personal lives, is just a facade. You never really know what's going on behind closed doors. So today, hopefully, we're going to separate some of the myth between what's revenue from real profit. And so maybe they can finish the year knowing kind of closer exactly where they're standing.
Oh, that'd be nice. It's kind of late in the year, right? But let's give it a try.
It's never too late to get your finances in order, though.
It's never too late. And just to learn a little bit each time, which is why we stream all these to YouTube. There's a YouTube channel just for your lives with me or with Leslie, so people can deep dive into their bookkeeping and accounting if they want to and learn a lot from the lives we've done this whole year. So why don't you start with telling everybody what is the difference between profit and revenue?
I heard years ago a saying, and I'm hoping I get it right, but it said something to the effect that revenue is vanity, but your profit is reality. And I'm pretty sure I messed it up, but you get what I'm saying? Like,
Oh, I
we
like
all
that.
want to, we all want to say that, oh, I actually, I did $1 million in sales, I did 2 million in sales. But if you're only making profit of 50,000, who cares how much you build? I'd rather be the company that built 500,000, but then had a profit of 100,000. Like, it's, you know what I mean? So understanding the difference between the two, I think revenue, as we all know, is everything that you bill, but then the profit is kind of what you get to keep. And so revenue can get inflated by a lot of things that are going to pass through the business. So even though your revenue number has to include what you bill to your clients for furniture and accessories and things like that, that's why we always look at that cost of goods number and making sure we're marking things up, because you did 100,000, but if 70,000 is going back out of the door, then you need to understand how much does that leave you to actually pay your team, keep the lights on, and run the business. So that's why sometimes designers get misled by those big jobs, especially if they're not tracking profitability on the project level to really understand how they're making money.
Yes, and basically your profit is after all your expenses.
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes, it is after all of your expenses. So when you're looking at like your profit and loss report, right? We're not going to get too technical, but when if everyone could just close their eyes and visualize a profit and loss report, we all know what it looks like. It has your revenue, your cost of goods sold, and then all of your what we call operating expenses like advertising, rent, payroll, that kind of stuff. And then that bottom number, we hope is positive, where it says we made a revenue. But there are some things that impact cash that do not show up on that profit and loss. And I know we've talked about it before, but I'm going to go back and just reiterate those. So
Okay.
things like loan payments. So when you borrow money, if I borrowed $50,000 this year as a loan, that 50,000 isn't considered income to me. So when I pay back the 50,000, it's not an expense. So I would not see that on my P&L. So even though I'm paying back 50,000, that cash is leaving my business. I don't see it reflected on my P&L. What I will see is the interest that I pay. So you may think, oh, I made 20,000, but if you had to pay back a $50,000 loan, cash wise, it's gone. So that's one that people don't think about. Credit cards are the same. So let's say it's almost the end of the year. December 31st, you go out and you buy $50,000 worth of product for your client. So it's going to show up on your P&L. But in January, right, you have to start paying that back. And so you have to realize that we're in a whole new year. That's going to impact cash for next year, even though you're not going to see the expense anymore because you already took the expense when you bought it. Does that make sense?
Yes, and this is why it's so confusing for designers of why doesn't my bank account show what I've
Exactly.
actually made? Because there's other
Right.
factors going on in the background that doesn't show up on your P&L.
And there's a third one. So we talked about loan payment back. We talked about loan payments, we talked about credit card payments, and then your owner's draws. If you're not on payroll, if you're not as corp, but you're actually taking payroll where you see it on your P&L, the money you take out of the business as an owner's draw is not reflected anywhere on that P&L. But it left the business. So that's a huge draw or drain on cash because a lot of people will swipe the card. They're not just taking $1,000 out or $5,000 a month and then putting it into their personal account to live off of. What they're doing is they're just buying things and they're swiping things, and it adds up and it's killing your cash. It really is. You really have to pay attention to how much of your personal stuff you're putting through your business that's not deductible because this cash is just leaving.
It's funny you're talking about this because just the other day I said to somebody, you need to go to your banking statements and circle everything you put through your business that is not necessarily business related, because you feel like you're not paying yourself, but you're paying an awful lot to the business that you are technically paying
Yes.
yourself, and you're paying yourself pre-tax dollars.
Yes, because you're looking at like the nails you're getting done, you're going out to eat. That's not a business expense. So when you have QuickBooks, the good thing is you can look in your QuickBooks and look at your balance sheet and look at your owner's draw and see. You could actually go back and look every month how much have I been taking out. And that's a good thing for people to realize. So when you're trying to figure out how much does it take when you're looking at paying yourself a salary, like when you're actually going to become an S corp and pay yourself a salary, to understand, well, how much have I been taking out the business already? So I can understand, well, can I continue to afford to take out what I have been taking out? Which
Yes.
sometimes is not always the case.
It's definitely not always the case. And a lot of people do that where they're putting personal expenses through their business and they don't really realize the effects until they talk to you,
Yes,
right? Or
exactly.
a good bookkeeper explains to them what exactly they've done now and not why am
Right.
I broke yet it looks like I'm doing a ton of
Yep.
business.
Just be honest with yourself when you're taking money out of the business. So here's some other things why they could feel broke because you use that word.
Mhm.
Underpricing design services. That's you. That's your ballpark over there. We all know. I had a conversation with someone recently, and they had said, "Well, it was a small project, so I just went ahead and I didn't charge them a markup or something like that. I just,
Okay, so the way you just said, I just,
I
and
just,
And
right?
we did a live with this virtual CFO, Megan, who said, anytime you say just, it means you're doing something.
Ooh,
It's a great sentence. And I repeat it now all the time. Megan Dolly, a virtual
interesting.
CFO. She's like, anytime you say, well, I just did it this time. It's a neighbor.
Mm,
Anytime you say the word just, stop yourself and go, what am I giving up right now that I
yes.
shouldn't be?
And let me tell you, I'm a small business owner, just like all of the people listening here, and I too have struggled with that, where
Yes.
you're like, it's only going to take us a few minutes. Let's just, like you said, let's just go ahead and do it, and you realize that you're losing money when you keep
Yes.
doing things that you're not contracted to do.
Yes.
And we have to, as business owners, we have to kind of stand our ground and be very clear about what is included in our scope of work and what's not included. And scope creep can really get out of hand. And if you're if you're charging hourly, not tracking your time, it means you're losing money.
Absolutely. And you said it, like, this is in my wheelhouse. I'd say 90% of the designers who come to me are not charging appropriately for their services. And the minute I explain it to them and get them to be confident in it, explaining it to their client, it's like a light bulb goes off, like,
Hmm.
wow. And I'm talking, you could be in business 1 year, which makes more sense if you're not charging properly, or
Right.
25 years, people come to me and go, I have never charged for all of the things that I can charge for. Isn't the client going to be shocked? Sometimes the clients get shocked, but once you know the vocabulary and have the confidence behind what you're charging
Exactly.
and why you're charging it, it becomes less of an obstacle because
Yeah.
you're sitting in your space. So for someone to make a profit versus just bringing in good revenue, you need to have your pricing right. So
Yes. And tracking that time, because the time eats up. And especially if you, let's say you're a solo designer and you don't have a team yet, and you're just used to doing everything and not really understanding the time that goes into doing the work. When you go to hire someone, you really will probably be losing money because you don't realize now you're paying someone to do all the things that you were doing. And they are tracking their time because they want to get paid. And so then you realize, ooh, this was not as profitable as I thought it was initially.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Love that. And when you hire someone, you want to make sure they're doing a certain amount of client work for the most part. This way they are billable against something that the client has given you. And then they can do other work. That's another whole lesson, which we've done many times, right? On
Yeah,
how to hire properly to actually have somebody making you money, not just be an expense. But that's
exactly.
another life.
There's one other thing that I've seen designers do when they are running a project and they are handling the billing for, say, their installer or whatever kind of service person that's doing some work for them, and they're not marking up that service, it's eating into their profit. Because if you're charging, let's say you're charging your client and they're paying with via credit card, so you're eating the credit card fee, but you're paying the vendor his full amount, you've lost money there.
If you're not
Um,
getting it
right.
up, that's a good point. Yeah,
Exactly.
credit card
Yeah.
fees.
Exactly. And then there's an admin time for you coordinating, getting their invoice and getting to the client, billing them. So if you're acting as this go-between, you need to be charging their prices up so that you are actually being paid for your time.
Great point. And I think some designers do and some designers don't, but wouldn't it be great just to have the client pay them directly and not have it go through your books?
That's even better.
This
You don't
way
have
you're
to worry
not
about
worried about
issuing
that.
1099s and all that stuff. But if you do, just make sure that you are marking it up and you're not giving it away. And just because it's always those little tiny things. It's like going to Walmart. You're like, oh, this is $5. That's $5. And then you get to checkout. You're like, wait, $200? How? Everything was $5. If you're giving away $5 here, $20 there, it does add up and it does start to really eat into your profit.
It does. It does. And you hit on a pet peeve of mine. I used to go to the store and go, everything is a minimum of $4. And now everything's a minimum of $5. It's true. The smallest little thing, $5. But
Right,
you're
right.
right.
And it adds up so fast.
It does
So,
add up so fast. So be cognizant of what you spend in your business, not to be taking away from your profit and to keep more of your profit in your business. I feel like one of the things a lot of designers don't understand is that you need to keep profit in your business in order to grow your business.
mhm.
Right? I was saying to someone, like, what's in your business? What do you keep? Like, if you're doing $10,000 worth of your money design services every month, you're taking it all. How do you hire a bookkeeper? How do you hire a social media person? How do you
Right.
pay yourself properly through payroll? It was like, oh, I don't know. I never
Yeah.
thought of those things. And it's
Right.
normal. I mean, these are things we all learn early on, hopefully, as business owners. But
Mhm.
it can really mess you up if you do this for years and years and years and never actually get it right.
And I think what you point out is a really good issue between creating a business and creating a job for yourself, right? So if you are truly trying to create a business that could at some point maybe even run without you, you do have to invest in the business. And that means you can't take everything out yourself.
Yes.
If you're just creating a job or a lifestyle business where all it's doing is funding your lifestyle, and once you're done, it's over, then whatever. But most of us get into this because we want something, some legacy. We want something that's going to last beyond us, and we
Yes.
want to actually create a valuable business. And so, yeah, you definitely have to think long term.
Right. Okay. I like it. Anything else coming to your attention when it comes to the
Yeah, so just the obvious things that could be draining their time, making sure that they are not spending too much on subscriptions for bookkeeping, not reconciling. So basically, all those will help them, if they're doing those things, will help them to understand what it costs to run the business. So outside of your sales, outside of your cost of goods sold, having a good idea as to what does it cost to keep the lights on every month. That means, marketing, software, because we all know software is expensive and it goes up every year.
yeah.
Making sure that, bookkeeping, coaches, all those things. How much does it cost for you to keep the business going? Because that really does help to shed light on, am I spending too much for my size business, right? Like, do I really need to do all the things that I'm doing? Do I really need to pay for all the things I'm paying for? Or just to make better decisions about how you're spending your money.
Better decisions on how you're spending your money. Yes.
Because
That's
you're going to have to spend it, but make good decisions.
right. Well, I always say to everybody, understand what you're supposed to be doing. And if you're deciding not to do it or to do it differently, that's your choice as the business owner.
Right.
I'm not the IRS. I'm not going to tell you yes or no. However, I'm going to try to tell you how you should be running your business to keep yourself protected from audits and getting down a rabbit hole of a complete financial mess. We've seen people who just never do their bookkeeping. And at the end of the year, they're panicked and they have nothing to give their accountant.
Right, exactly. No one wants to go into the new year with that type of stress. So,
Exactly.
if I would say any kind of a takeaway for today is, we have the holiday season coming up. So maybe people aren't as busy as they normally are. This would be a really good time to really start looking at your books. If you are tracking projects, maybe it's a good time to do some audits of those projects, maybe your last three, to see, how much did I really make on these projects, and is it enough to sustain the business? If I were to double my projects, does that mean doubling my workload, or can we make things a bit more efficient so we can take on more work without me as a business owner having to do a lot more? Can I afford to then hire that admin I was thinking about, or the ops person that I was thinking about? So this would be a good time of the year for some reflection, and so that you're going into the new year with a better understanding of how you can change things.
That's a great call to action. So, all right, everyone, go take a look at your books and see what you can possibly cut out if you need to for the next year before we go into January. Clean up your books. Go back from the beginning if you didn't see the beginning, and listen to Carleen's tips on how to clean everything up and make sure that you are maximizing your profitability and not just stuck on, well, I'm making money. I'm bringing in money, right? That's what I hear a lot. Like, I'm bringing in money. I've
Right.
any clients. I'm like, okay, what's left over at the end of the month?
Exactly.
Nothing.
Exactly.
Nothing. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
why nothing? And then it's really not nothing. It's that they take it in different ways that they have not acknowledged as being taking away from their profit.
Yeah. And remember, at the end of the day, even if you have a bookkeeper, it's still your business, and you really do need to be involved in looking at these numbers and just understanding things. One quick example, I have a client that came to us. She wasn't tracking profitability. She started doing that, and she did say it changed her business. And so she became such an investigator of her numbers. Like, she really enjoyed figuring out, like, how can I make my business more efficient? And I think that's the attitude you kind of have to have. You can't just say, well, I'm paying someone to do that, because I've said it before, this is your business, this is your baby. No one's going to love it the way you do. So
Yes.
if you really want to grow it, you really do need to put on that CEO hat, and go, okay, I'm the CEO of my business, and I need to really look at these numbers and start to figure out what it means, so that I can have some clarity. And clarity means you have some control, and then control means you have some confidence.
I love that. We're going to end there.
Okay.
Understanding what you're spending is what's going to give you the confidence to know that you're running your business properly.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, everyone, go head over to C2-ACC to get on Carleen's calendar to talk about your bookkeeping. If you have a bookkeeper who you feel funny asking questions to, they're never available to answer questions, they don't really want to talk to you, and you don't really understand what they do, please get on Carleen's calendar and get that fixed, because as a business owner, having a good bookkeeper is the number one hire. It's the number one hire. Of course you agree, right? Because
I don't have much choice but to agree.
it's the first hire for solopreneurs that are going from solo to first hire. To me, bookkeeping is it, because that is what gives you the superpower to understand how to run your business properly when you start to understand your numbers. So, all right. Did we miss anything, Carleen?
I think we covered it all.
All right, go
If
ahead.
there's any questions, put them in the chat and we can definitely take a look at
Put
it
them
next
in the
time.
chat. Tag Carleen or tag I, and we'll get to it. Let's get your books in order before the end of the year.
Yes. All right. Have a good one, everyone.
All right.